What are we doing today? We are building concrete countertops, and I'm gonna show you that from start to finish. We are at our local lumber supply store here in Anderson, California. Payless Building Supply. It's not necessarily pay less because of the economy right now, so it's pay a heck of a lot more than 5 years ago, no matter where you are, but they have really quality lumber. So.
Supervisor.
Any of the material that you don't want to get wet, fender boards, particle boards, anything like that is going to be in a covered building. We're getting 3/4 inch CDX plywood. We're gonna waterproof it and turn it to concrete countertops. One thing is that when you are buying screws, nails, or anything like that, go to the bulk bin because you're gonna buy this box right here for $20. It's less than half the price to get the bulk. 87 bucks, 2 sheets of plywood and screws.
I can hold this.
What we are looking at here is no countertops. We got some 24-inch wide work area, 301. So this is 4 foot exact. A sheet of plywood is 8 feet long. So I'm just gonna cut plywood in half. Then a 3'3" area. So we're just gonna use 1 sheet of plywood for these two. Yeah, we don't need another sheet of plywood. We have enough plywood to do this, but I'm gonna get melamine. These cabinets are really smooth, and I want the face of the concrete to be smooth. And you guys go back and watch my table videos, I use melamine on my edges because it creates just a perfectly smooth surface. You guys wanna know the difference between a table saw and a skill saw? It's in the name. You gotta have skill to use a skill saw. If you wanna learn how to set up and use this, check the link in my description.
We will link it
We
right
will
here.
link it
Around here.
there. Forty and a half, right?
I forget. I'm the
Measure
camera girl.
twice, cut once. Measure twice, cut once. 40 and a half inches, I was right. It's the next morning, and I have to finish up the bracing that goes underneath the plywood that holds the countertop up when I'm not around. Now, something to consider when you're doing this is be sure to cut those strips to where you could still open the drawers underneath the strips. Always, most important rule with cabinetry work, pre-drill your holes. These are supports for when I am not here. These are going to stay, so I need to pre-drill the hole to prevent cracking. So now at this point, what I tell myself is I need to clean my batteries. Right after, I slap in this last piece of bracing, throw the plywood on top, and get to work on these cantilevered edges. Why are you not working on them? There he goes. Okay, we're gonna cut the notch out of this piece of plywood that will be on the bottom of the cantilevered edge. Dude needs to do calves. That's me. I need to do calves. Okay, so we're gonna slap into this piece of plywood that I cut the notch out of, which is going to be holding, it's going to be like a waterfall style concrete edge is what I explain it as. It's a cantilevered edge. The concrete goes below where the top of the concrete is, or the bottom of the top slab is still higher than the bottom of the outside edge. There are multiple different styles of cantilevered edge. You can buy snap tops. This is all formed up by hand. Now what we're going to do right here is they sent us a paper insert to figure out where the cutout points were for this sink. I figured it was going to be so much easier to throw the directions away, flip the sink over, do it myself in my head. Boy golly, was I right. Now after butchering that sink, I decided to do something right. Jump into some caulking. Sealing all the joints between the wood. Anywhere one piece of wood meets the other wood, or melamine to wood, you caulk it, you seal it. If you do not do this, hopefully you have everything out from inside your cabinets because you're going to get concrete water, cement mixed with water all over everything. You can see that I wisened up and got the proper tool and stopped using my finger. Now we're at home.
Getting concrete, baby.
Getting concrete, baby. I wish I would have known how lousy this product I'm about to get was, and I'm a DeWalt lover, but if you're going to be mixing up a lot of bags of concrete, I highly suggest buying a powerful corded drill. Unless you are going to buy the massive proper mixing drill from DeWalt, do not bother using that drill. It is not used for this purpose. If you are going to go for a 10-minute drill, go to Harbor Freight.
What I'm doing right now is, because I didn't want to caulk these joints on the inside because I didn't want it to round my edges at all, I'm just going to go ahead and toss a piece of tape on it. And that way, it holds back as much of the water coming out of the concrete as possible on these beautiful white countertops. Yay! I usually pour 60-pound bags, but all they had was 80s. So what I'm gonna do, make it a little bit easier, because that is just too much in one bucket to mix. So I'm gonna split them. Whoa!
Jeez, Ryan.
It doesn't have a slow mode.
What are you using now?
My battery op. Seems to have no issues.
Put
It's the new smoking drill.
The new smoking drills have to take a 10-minute smoke break every 20 minutes. You can tell that my first batch was mixed up a little improper. Our mixing guy was new to the job, so I had to go show him how to mix it properly. We still did not have the consistency I wanted, but it was workable. It just took a little bit more effort. You can see here that I'm pushing the concrete into the cantilevered edge. Be sure you do this throughout the entire form. It's a low spot. You're going to get rock pockets in there if you have a thicker mix. I would suggest wetting it up a little bit more than I have here, personally, being a year later. I'm going to lay down the first half of this concrete. That way I can put a couple sticks of rebar in here, reinforce it, make sure it's got that little bit of extra strength, but I have to make sure all my edges are packed and vibrated. We have big vibrators that look very interesting on big job sites. So when we're doing footings or we're doing a slab that it calls for vibrating the edges, we have a massive tool that strictly agitates the concrete. They're pretty interesting. Definitely would not be used on something like this. I'm going to go old school. You'll see what I mean by that here in a second. Now you guys are going to see how many times I tap this, and I thought I was overdoing it. Just so you know, I underdid it. So you might even want to use a Sawzall or a battery op or corded sander without the sanding pad on it, obviously, and just run it along the sides of the form, because I did not tap this enough for how thick we mixed it.
It needs 2 sticks.
Right there?
Obviously, this next batch was not mixed up how I wanted it, but time is of the essence when you're doing your second round, and if you rub it enough, it's going to work. And plus, the less water you put in concrete, the stronger it is. So this is actually a very strong countertop. Just takes a little bit more elbow grease to get it down. And if you noticed, I did cover up those 2 sticks of rebar that run the length of the countertop right there, the island, and it is within 3 inches of each side. 2 to 3 inches is usually what I go for. You could also use steel mesh, 6-inch squares, hog wire, stuff like that, and you could cut it with bolt cutters or wire pliers to fit the form perfectly. That is a very acceptable option. I prefer number 3 rebar, but you can do it however you want if you have a little bit of reinforcement. Controversial topic here. If you were born below the 1990s, you're probably going to say that microfiber is not a good product, but I think you can use that over rebar or wire mesh most of the time. Let me tell you guys something. I am voiceovering this video 1 year later. I haven't seen about it or heard about it since then. So you're kind of looking at me a year ago, and so am I. What I do realize what I'm doing wrong, or what I did wrong on this project, obviously I remember now, But we'll talk about it as I go through. 1, the mixture of the mud was not proper. That mud needed to be mixed with so much more water in it. Or the bags of flow that they sell at Home Depot, those are top of the line. You put one of those into a 60 to 80 pound bag of concrete mix, it will make it flow like soup without losing any of the strength. So I would have definitely done that. You'll notice I'm going back and I'm retapping it because if you put the second layer on, slick it up, you still want those to see those air bubbles come out. But having my mix as thick as I did, those air bubbles, it would be very difficult for them to come out and cream to fill their spots unless I had a mechanical vibrator. There's no way I was going to win with the hammer. That's why on this project, we ended up having to come up with a few different solutions to fill the edges. Foreshadowing a little bit here, you will see what I mean. One thing was that this client wanted epoxy countertops to begin with because the price of granite, if I do remember right, was quadruple the price I charged him. Now, it's because I hadn't done that many concrete countertops before, so he got a very, very discounted price because I wasn't a 10 out of 10 on him. And I let him know that from the beginning. I still think they came out very beautiful. So I had a chance on this project to practice with epoxy and concrete. You'll see exactly what I mean coming up in the film. What I'm doing right now is I'm packing the edges. I'm making sure I'm getting enough cream so I don't have huge rock pops on that top edge. You can keep a sharp edge on this concrete. I can't remember if I edged it or not. We're about to find out together. All that extra concrete, I'm going to go ahead and shave off, and I have a helper holding the bucket for me. Got to get that slick finish on there before you could even take a break and walk away. When concrete goes down, you have to work it until it's flat and sealed. You cannot leave it until that point. And then you can only leave it for a certain amount of time. Now, looking back in the past year, I would like to go back and tell myself, wear gloves. Pull your pants up, obviously, right there, which that's not a thing I do. I don't sag. It's just loose belt. Wear gloves, wear a mask, wear eye protection. I don't know what I was thinking, but I have gotten a heck of a lot better at that today. Here we go, getting a nice slick finish on it. One thing I would have done differently was poured these 2 islands in one day and then poured the main counter in another day. That way I could have paid attention to these 2 smaller pours. They would have been at the same size pour, but 2 days instead of 1. Having a proper mix, guys, also insanely important on this, I found out. I was able to work the concrete and make it look really good.
All right, guys, so our drill burned up that first go around. I think it was just a defect because usually these things are pretty strong. So we're going to go get a new one.
The proper drill used by DeWalt they say that it is a mixing drill. What I used was not a mixing drill. I think it was for drilling wood bits through wood. Definitely not for mixing concrete. Now what we got going right here is a very fine line in the concrete where that sink's going to hang. If anybody ever fills that sink up all the way with water, that's going to be really heavy. So I don't think I show it here, but I definitely put a stick of rebar all the way around that on each side because it's going to be holding a tremendous amount of weight. The mixture, obviously, again, was a little thick. It's just a little bit more elbow grease. Doesn't mean it's going to come out bad, but definitely have a mechanical vibrator. It's important to tap on the inside of the form for the sink because you don't want any edges showing. It is covered about 3/4 of an inch to an inch, but it's better safe than sorry. That little 1.5 to 2 inch chunk of concrete in the back, you 100% need rebar in that because that is holding up the weight of the sink, you guys. It's very important. If you're doing a DIY, reinforce the sink area. I cannot stress it enough. Now we're going to be doing the exact same finish on this side as we did on the other side. It is a slick hard trowel finish. It's basically just rubbing your trowel across it until it gets hard, picking up every spot. Now right here is what I talked about on vibrating the edges. You can see that I am filling it with sand and cement right now because I did not get all the rock pockets out. We want square edges. So I got a little paint putty knife, which you could use a smaller trowel. Putty knives are kind of easy to fill in holes, especially if you use your big trowel. Put it underneath. It'll give you a nice square edge. Paintbrush with sand and cement fills in all the tiny, tiny little areas. The finest sand and Portland cement is what you're going to want to use on these. Let it dry for 24 hours. Come and sand it off.
all the spots that were rough. Just 220 grit.
After this step, you would be complete after properly cleaning off your countertops and getting a proper sealer to put on it. Chemical resistant is usually the best for concrete countertops, they'll be in kitchens. We had other plans. When you're going to clean up the concrete countertop, be sure you wipe it down properly with water and rags and sponges multiple times before applying a sealer. And then give the sealer 24 hours to cure before you do anything with the job. Here's that epoxy I was going to be telling you about. Hey guys, this is a good time to tell you, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And if you're going to be doing a project like this, leave us a comment, send us a message. I'd like to talk to you about it, the pros and the cons. This is when the epoxy was done on it. My personal look would be the rustic concrete look, but this does look pretty slick.